Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. First game of the season. It's coming up. Broncos versus Titans, Monday Night Football. Benjamin, let's go ahead and start breaking that game down. Where are the matchups that are most intriguing to you? I mean, really, in this game, it feels like to me that we have to almost start with red zone offense, red zone defense, kind of in how each one matches up, because you had the Tennessee Titans offense, the best red zone offense in the NFL, 75.5% conversion, versus the Broncos, who are the number one red zone defense. Which one gives?
Well, it's tough because the Tennessee Titans match up very well with how the Broncos play in the red zone. They've got the freight train, the H train, Derrick Henry barreling downfield. Anytime you're playing zone inside the red zone and you got a power run game like that, it's incredibly tough to stop. You've got to be very sure tacklers and able to bring guys down one-on-one, and that's going to be interesting to see if the Broncos are able to do that with Derrick Henry.
Did it last year.
They did. Now, they didn't let him get down to the red zone last year. In fact, they didn't let him cross the 50-yard line for three quarters. But I think that that's going to be a little bit different with Ryan Tannehill playing the whole game versus Marcus Mariota stuff that they were trying to run last year. With Ryan Tannehill, Arthur Smith changed up the offense a little bit. Tennessee Titans like to run. They were still running the power with Derrick Henry. But what they like to do is they like to run max protect play action stuff. It's basically two route play action plays, and everybody else is back in there blocking, and they're banking that all that protection will allow one of those two guys, A.J. Brown especially, to get open, and then they can make a play on the football. So you're going to have to be very good in your coverage, and that zone scheme. You're going to have to be very good in passing guys through the seam and zone and hope that your front four that are going after the quarterback get home against that max protect.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill led the league in quarterback rating last year and very efficient, and we talked about him a ton on the show, the Tana Goat, because you'd called that early in training camp that the Tennessee Titans would likely move to Ryan Tannehill at some point, moving away from Marcus Mariota. And it was actually the Broncos game that sort of hit them on their trajectory towards the AFC Championship game, interestingly enough. But I think a lot of people look at this and say, well, if you shut down Derrick Henry, the Broncos did 15 carries at 28 yards, 1.9 per, then you have a really good shot at shutting down that offense. But A.J. Brown is a budding young star in this league. And you know, I don't know necessarily if that one guy is going to be enough. And, of course, they don't have Delaney Walker there anymore. They have Jonnu Smith, who's their kind of leading pass-catching tight end. Davis is still there. Corey Davis is still there. So you have some talent there, but they're not all household names. What do you think about the passing game for the Titans?
Well, again, if they can run that max protect and give guys time to get open, their offensive line is the Achilles heel, much like the Denver Broncos have been at times in this offense, allowing Ryan Tannehill to get the time to be able to make those throws. And that's really been the key to Tannehill's success throughout his career, whether that was Tennessee or Miami. A.J. Brown is a guy I would mention in the same breath as Courtland Sutton. He's a very physical, toolsy wide receiver who's, he's strong. And if you can get him the ball, he's got a catch radius of the sky to the floor. So, it's one of those things where he's the big play guy, whether they're going to him short, let him create, whether they go to him long. Jonnu Smith is kind of the possession guy. And then Derrick Henry is the engine that makes this thing go. You're basically going to have to sell out to stop Henry early. And you have an added advantage because A.J. Bouye has experience going up against A.J. Brown. And so I think hopefully that corner that veteran corner who has the experience will be able to find ways to kind of get up at A.J. Brown's grill, disrupt him a little bit early. And if you could throw off the timing, you could put these guys behind the chains. And as we saw in the playoffs last year, once Tennessee gets behind the chains, once they get behind on the scoreboard, they are not a team that's built to come back.
No, they certainly aren't. And they're a little bit of a throwback in that respect. Mm-hmm. They are a little bit like what the Broncos tried to win a championship, and they did eventually, of course, in 2015 when they tried to say, hey, it's okay. The offense does enough. We've got a good running game, but our defense is great. But again, we pointed out the defense in the red zone. We flip over to the other side. The Titans' defense was actually second worst in the red zone last year. And the Broncos' offense wasn't great in the red zone either. They were 28th. But the Titans' defense being 31st, that seems like an exploitable matchup.
Well, the Titans don't like to let you get to the red zone. They try to play to put you behind the chains. It's a philosophy that sends multiple guys at the quarterback, tries to make you get rid of it quick and going to make you dink and dunk them down the field unless you just get a great pass pro. And that's what they do. And the problem is that when you blitz down there in the red zone, that means you're taking one guy out of coverage, which means somebody's probably going to be open, and it exposes you on the slant, which is a play that the Broncos like to run. So for me, personally, I think if you're the Broncos offense, you need to learn to play within yourself. Don't look for the deep shot every time. Pick your chances. But if you can get Courtland Sutton in the red zone, get that big body to box out on the slant, I think you're going to be money.
I want to go back to the Broncos defense versus their offense. One opportunity might be right guard Nate Davis, who Pro Football Focus had him as a 46.6 overall grade, 44.8 blocking grade. Seems like an opportunity because you're dealing with some injuries on the on your outside linebackers, but the interior of that defensive line is incredibly stout. This might be one of those opportunities for, say, a Jarrell Casey to end up having some success.
Well, you'd hope so. Casey's going to have experience against these guys before, know their ticks, and hopefully be able to tell the rest of the defensive line where they tip some of their things. Davis is only in there because he's a power run blocker. The guy's a freight train coming downhill. He's a liability in pass pro. So the idea for the Denver Broncos, if you can shut them down on first and second down, force those third and longs, those are your exploitable opportunities. You need to, number one, be able to get home with that pass rush, and number two, have your DBs back there able and ready and concentrating on making sure they're reading the quarterback and trying to turn them over. That's going to be vital in this game.
Coming back to our pace conversation, this really does feel like that kind of game. If you can get a couple of score lead on them, keep that run game dialed down, put it all on Tannehill. Again, Tannehill very efficient last year, but I don't think they don't want to function like that. They'd like to function as we expect, with a little bit of a lead and just salt things away with Henry.
Right, and that's the Titans' philosophy on offense is each drive we're going to come away with 2 to 3 first downs, and that's going to keep pushing us down the field where we go. We're going to keep wearing you down, that kind of thing. So the longer you keep the ball out of their hands, play them with tempo, you can walk it up, do whatever you got to do, you're good to go with the Denver Broncos.
Right.